All right, so we're going all in on Mount Everest today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that legendary first climb to the top.
Right, right.
I know you want all the details, and we're going deep.
Awesome.
Like way beyond just, names and dates.
Love it.
Think of it as like a deep dive, right into the heart of the story.
I'm ready.
And we've got this fascinating lecture transcript as our guide.
Cool.
So, yeah, get ready for some serious aha moments.
It's funny. We always hear about planting the flag on Everest.
Yeah.
But, what people often forget is that for the locals, the Sherpas in Tibetan's Everest wasn't just about climbing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Sagamatha Chomolungma. These names, places of deep, spiritual meaning way before, anyone from outside ever set foot there.
That's true.
Huh.
It really changes things, doesn't it?
For sure.
It's like suddenly seeing Everest through different eyes.
Yeah.
So how did this whole conquering Everest thing even start in the West?
Well, picture this like the early 1900s, right? The British Empire is at its peak. Everyone's exploring like it's the thing to do.
Right.
And there's this almost like an obsession with pushing boundaries.
Uh-huh.
So the 1921 British reconnaissance expedition, that was a big deal.
Well,
They mapped out potential routes up Everest,
makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's Mallory and Irvine in 1924.
Oh, yeah.
Vanished high up on the mountain, just gone.
The true mystery.
Leaving everyone to wonder if they actually summited,
Did they conquer Everest decades before Hillary and Norgay?
Right. It's a question that still bugs Everest historians.
Oh, for sure. Their story definitely added to the whole, allure of Everest.
Yeah.
But also the danger.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
So despite those early attempts, Everest stayed unconquered for decades.
Exactly.
The altitude, the
Yeah.
crazy weather, the technical difficulty. It would take a special mix of things and a lot of luck to finally succeed.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so fast forward to 1953.
Okay.
Colonel John Hunt and his super-planned British expedition arrive. Our source calls it like a triumph of planning and collaboration.
I like that.
How did they finally crack the Everest code?
Well, Hunt's leadership was key, no question.
Yeah.
But the team itself was amazing. A mix of experienced climbers,
Mm-hmm.
plus vital Sherpa expertise. These guys knew the mountain inside and out.
Right.
And we can't forget the new tech,
True.
cutting-edge oxygen systems, and super rigorous training. I mean, they were not messing around.
Wow. It's mind-boggling how much went into it.
Yeah,
Like putting together a giant puzzle, but with really high stakes.
totally.
Speaking of key pieces of the puzzle, let's talk about Edmund, Hillary, and Tenzing Norgay.
Our dynamic duo.
Right.
So you've got Edmund Hillary, a beekeeper from New Zealand.
A beekeeper.
Not your typical Everest climber, right?
Not at all.
But this guy had serious tenacity, like a real problem solver when it came to climbing. And then you have Tenzing Norgay, a Sherpa with years of experience in the Himalayas,
Wow.
practically born to climb these peaks.
A beekeeper and a seasoned Himalayan climber. What a
Wow.
team.
I know, right?
What a mix of skills and perspective.
Powerful combo.
So what about that final push to the summit?
So picture this setting off from Camp Diex before dawn,
Okay.
knowing you're trying something that's defeated so many before you.
Intense.
They battled treacherous ice falls, had to overcome the infamous Hillary Step.
The Hillary step.
Yeah, a near vertical rock face.
Oh, wow.
One of the most challenging parts of the entire climb.
And all while the air is getting thinner and thinner.
Exactly.
Just trying to imagine. It makes me tired.
I bet.
All right, take us to that moment. May 29th, 11:30 a.m.
Okay.
They reach the summit. What happened up there at the top of the world?
Well, they took photos, buried some small tokens like a tribute,
Nice.
and just took in the view for those few moments.
Wow.
They couldn't stay long. The conditions were brutal.
I bet.
But it was a victory decades in the making.
Incredible. And get this, their triumph happened at the same time as Queen Elizabeth's coronation back in England.
Wow, talk about timing.
Can you imagine the celebrations when the news hit London?
It was huge for post-war Britain.
Yeah,
This climb, for many, symbolized a return to greatness,
I could see that.
a beacon of hope in a world still recovering from conflict.
Yeah, but if we look deeper, our source points out that the way the West saw Hillary versus Norgay was well complicated.
It's true. There was definitely a focus on Hillary as the hero, which unfortunately often overshadowed Tenzing's contribution and the essential role of the Sherpa community as a whole.
But wasn't Hillary celebrated as the hero at the time?
He was.
How do we reconcile that with acknowledging Tenzing's equal contribution?
It's tricky. To be fair to both men, they always emphasized their teamwork
Okay.
and downplayed any talk of who reached the summit first. However, Tenzing did later clarify that Hillary took the first step.
Oh, interesting.
But the focus remained on their shared accomplishment.
That's good.
It really says a lot about them that even at the peak of their fame, they prioritize unity over individual glory.
That's a powerful point.
Yeah.
It seems there are always these layers of complexity, even in moments of triumph.
Often.
Yeah. And then, of course, there are the controversies surrounding the expedition.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting how even with all that unity and achievement, there could be these, underlying complexity. But I guess it's good to acknowledge them, right?
Definitely. It helps to see the whole picture, get the full context.
Right. And it's not just about Hillary and Tenzing.
No, not at all.
The 1953 expedition kind of brought to light the whole reliance on Sherpa labor.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that often came with, unequal recognition and compensation.
Sadly. Yeah.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, while these two guys are being celebrated as heroes, the crucial role of the Sherpas was kind of being ignored by a lot of people.
It's a tough truth.
Can you tell us more about the challenges they faced?
Well, they were the ones doing the heavy lifting,
Literally.
Haha, yeah. Literally carrying all the loads, setting up the camps, basically making the climb possible for the Western climbers. And they faced incredible risks, often for very little pay or even a simple thank you.
It makes you realize that conquering Everest isn't just about triumph.
Yeah.
It's about sacrifice, too, and maybe even exploitation.
It's a hard thing to face.
It is, but it's a part of the story.
Absolutely. And to be fair to them, both Hillary and Tenzing saw this, and they became advocates for the Sherpa community later on.
Yeah, that's true. Hillary started the Himalayan Trust.
Oh, yeah.
They've done amazing work, building schools, hospitals, infrastructure in those communities in Nepal.
Incredible work.
He dedicated so much of his life to helping the people who helped him achieve his dream.
Exactly. And Tenzing, he became like a voice for Sherpa rights and their culture.
Yeah.
He understood how important it was to recognize their skills and knowledge,
Right.
making sure they were respected in the mountaineering world.
It's good to remember that even with all the complicated stuff, there were people genuinely trying to make a difference.
For sure. So let's switch gears a bit.
Okay.
What about the impact of the 1953 expedition on Everest itself?
Right? It basically became like the ultimate climbing goal.
Oh, totally. It sparked this worldwide fascination with the mountain.
Yeah.
Everest became a destination for climbers everywhere.
Which, of course, has its downsides. Overcrowding, environmental damage,
Right, turning it into this adventure tourism thing.
Exactly.
It's true. The success of that 1953 climb, in a way, created these problems.
Yeah,
But on the bright side, it also sparked this passion for exploration and adventure.
that's true. And it pushed innovation in climbing gear and techniques.
Absolutely.
The 1953 team, they were pioneers with supplemental oxygen.
That's a great point. And the oxygen debate is still going strong in the climbing community.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Some say it's essential for safety at those altitudes,
Makes sense.
while others think it gives an unfair advantage. Takes away from the pure challenge.
Wow, I had no idea. It was such a big debate.
Oh, yeah, it's a hot topic. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the first ascent of Everest, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Good question.
Well, first, the power of teamwork. I mean, neither Hillary nor Tenzing could have done it alone.
Right.
It took the whole team, including those essential Sherpas, to make it happen.
It really shows you that even the biggest challenges can be overcome.
When people come together with a shared goal.
Exactly. And then there's the resilience and determination of that team.
Oh,
The altitude, the weather, the mental and physical strain. It must have been brutal.
No doubt about it.
Yet they kept going. They adapted. They never gave up.
Amazing.
It's a lesson that goes way beyond just climbing.
I agree.
It's about overcoming any kind of adversity.
Absolutely. And we can't forget the ethical stuff we talked about earlier.
Right.
The 53 expedition showed us the importance of equity and fair treatment.
It makes you think about the impact of your actions, even when you're trying to do something good.
For sure. You have to think about who benefits, who might be left out, and how to make sure success is shared fairly.
Yeah, that's a message that goes way beyond Everest.
Absolutely. Speaking of messages, remember the mystery of Mallory and Irvine?
Oh, yeah.
They vanished in 24, and their camera might have had groundbreaking photos.
Right.
If they made it to the top, they did it without extra oxygen.
Wow.
That would change everything we know about human endurance.
It's crazy to think that someone might have done it 30 years earlier.
It makes you wonder what other secrets Everest is hiding.
It does. So even though the 1953 expedition was the official first successful climb,
Right.
there's a chance it happened way before.
It's a wild thought.
Yeah.
So this brings me to a question for our listeners.
Okay.
If we think of Everest as a metaphor for the challenges we face in our own lives,
Our own personal mountains to climb.
what can we learn from that 1953 team?
Right. What are our own oxygen systems, our Sherpa guides that can help us reach our goals?
Exactly. Every mountain, whether it's a real one or just a challenge in our lives,
Yeah.
has a story to tell, and those stories have lessons for us all.
Wow, it's amazing how climbing Everest, it's about so much more than just getting to the top.
It really is.
It's teamwork, resilience, those ethical things we talked about.
Yeah, and the mysteries.
Right. It really gets you thinking.
And, thinking about those personal Everests we all face,
Yeah.
I remembered something from the lecture about those summit photos.
Okay.
There's actually no picture of Hillary on the summit.
No way.
Oh,
Really? How is that even possible? He's like the image everyone thinks of.
I know, right? It's
That's
kind of ironic.
Totally.
So it turns out Tenzing wasn't familiar with cameras and didn't get a shot of Hillary up there.
Oh, wow.
It's a small thing, but it shows that their accomplishment was truly shared.
Even in that iconic moment, it wasn't about one person's glory.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about our own summits, those goals we're all trying to reach.
Yeah.
Maybe the journey is more important than the destination.
That's a good point. And getting to those summits often means relying on others,
Absolutely.
recognizing their contributions, sharing the success.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It
Yeah.
makes you think.
What about?
What if Mallory and Irvine did reach the summit in 24,
Yeah.
decades before the 53 expedition?
Right. How would that change how we see this whole story?
How we see human potential.
It's amazing to think about.
It is. Everest itself is kind of like that.
How so?
Majestic, awe-inspiring, but also mysterious and challenging.
You can admire it, but you also have to respect the risks and the complexities.
Exactly. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all this.
What do you mean?
Every mountain, every challenge has different sides to it.
Oh, I see.
The thrill of the climb, the feeling of reaching your goal,
Yeah.
but also the responsibility to think about the impact of your actions.
Right. And the potential consequences.
You got to appreciate the whole journey, not just the end result.
And make sure you're not forgetting anyone or anything along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So next time you're facing your own mountain,
That's a great way to put it.
remember Hillary and Tenzing and even Mallory and Irvine.
Okay.
Remember teamwork, resilience, and those ethical things we talked about.
Those are important. And remember, every mountain has a story.
Every challenge.
And those stories have lessons for all of us.
They do. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the first descent of Mount Everest.
It's been a great one. We'll see you next time for another adventure in knowledge.